Oh, well, so even the equipment doesn't want to act right now.
Oh
but
no.
but now we're back. Everything's cool. Everything's live now. So I'm gonna kind of go over that first question again with you. Well, actually, we can kind of move on because you're trained as a physician. Why trade the stethoscope for a megaphone on youth voices?
So this was a really interesting question. As a psychiatrist, we technically don't use stethoscopes, but when I was training, yes, a stethoscope is something for you to check the internals, like the heart, the lungs. A megaphone lets you hear their minds. And how do you hear their minds is through their voice. They have to release something to get it out of their head, right? We always tell ourselves, talk it out, write it out, think it out. And a megaphone gives an opportunity to actually take it out of your head and your mind. So as a psychiatrist, you use diagnosis, to diagnose someone, you have to use symptoms. But too often we don't know what those root causes are when there's social lack of agency, when there's exclusion, when there's miscommunication. Um, I always like to take it back to something that's been written in real time, which is the Lancet Commission on Adolescent Health in 2016 wrote, stresses that are empowering the youth voice is a long-term key to their well-being. If we don't hear what the youth and the youth adults and the younger kids are saying, we're not healing them. We're just completely showing them that they're not heard. And then we become a systematic issue. And that's not only controlled privately, but that's controlled socially. So by giving them a platform to speak, we're actually changing the system by saying their voices matter rather than later on when they're adults and you keep shutting them down and telling them their voices don't matter. So the megaphone gives them their voice and their platform as young as 8 years old.
See, now I'm gonna really go back and like people will age me here because I remember saying the same thing when I was a kid. My parents don't listen. Boy, I wish I could talk to my dad. And it kind of progressed until I would say this early 70s, after guys come back from the war and stuff, and we kind of realized that, being by whatever means necessary, we were not going to make our families go through the things that we went through. But along with that came that authoritism that what I say goes. You don't talk back.
Right.
Your opinion does not matter because I bring home the bacon. And here it is, I'm a great grandfather now. I'm hearing the same things. Gee, grandpa, dad won't listen to what I have to say. Yeah, or, uh, he'll listen, but he doesn't hear.
Hmm.
Have we really made progress?
No, we haven't. And I think it's the opposite. He hears me, but he doesn't listen to me. Listening means to unjudgmentally be quiet. And it's not only with kids. Remember, the art of listening is hard for the average adult to do. I'm talking about 27 and older. We're constantly interrupting, trying to fix the problem, or tell them what they're doing wrong. That's not listening. Listening is taking as long as the person needs to let it out. Because once they're done saying what they have to say, then they actually truly believe you listen to them. If you constantly take that moment and just be quiet and have no judgment towards them and are not thinking in your brain, okay, he said this, I have to fix this. Okay, he said that, or she has to do that. Oh, we need to not do this. Oh, just be quiet. Because by the end of the conversation, when that person is done, the mind frame could actually change because you've taken a step back. Have we done that? Absolutely not. We are a very judgmental society. We want to constantly judge everyone. I don't care if it's your kids, it's your parents, it's adults, it's your boss, it's your coworker. We constantly want to judge everybody. And so we haven't changed that.
Can you kind of paint us a picture when a classroom really practices uh, listening, inner-based? What did you call it?
Listening based
Listening-based
learning.
learning.
Yeah.
And what does that sound? What does it sound like? Look like? I mean, where do these feelings jump out?
So whenever we've gone into a classroom to do that, I've had constant teachers say, "Oh my God, I have not heard this much laughter, this much layered conversation." And I'm not just hearing one voice, I'm hearing multiple voices where teachers are thriving for their students to actually communicate with them. I had a teacher one time tell me, "I have never seen my students lead a discussion. Not only lead a discussion, they're asking questions to other students based on the discussion." And we're not talking about young kids. We're talking about young middle schoolers, high schoolers. Harvard did Project Zero's commission, and that showed classrooms that root in inquiry, not instruction, produce deeper empathy and longer retention of the student. So listening-based learning makes space for unpredictability. And that's where you see growth. If you're creating growth in a child, not just school book text learning, if you're wanting their mind to be uprooted and have a place of thinking, then you got to hear them out. And if you don't hear them out, you're back to where you were in Project Zero.
So, your upcoming book, it urges adults to listen, then lead. What's the biggest leadership mistake that parents make right now after they think they've listened?
I think one of the things that we discussed before is rushing to fix something. You know, if you're not taking that time to sit down and listen, you're then preluding to the fact you have a solution already for them, right? It's already fixed. I know what I need to say. I know where I need to go with this. And when we jump to strategies before we sit down with them and actually let the child express themselves, then we teach them an ability of discomfort, and we're teaching them and saying, "Oh, I can just be erased. You're not understanding me." So it's funny because you said this in your thing, like your dad didn't hear you or listen to you, and you just felt like he didn't get it. And now you hear that because that's what generationally has happened. We tend to tell the youth, "You're not important and you're not and they are saying, "We're not understood." So that's what is the conversation. So the book specifically is stories that gives the adults, and it's not just parents, it's teachers. It gives the adults a place of hearing the story based on what one young youth went through, and then showing the guidances on how the situation could have changed or it was handled. And that's what adults need. They need the new, I guess, the Bible of guidance is how to communicate and intergenerationally with our youth.
I'm a preacher's son, and there's a few chapters in the Bible I know of where we had that problem also, where we didn't want to listen to the youth. You know, some guy with coat of many colors kind of comes to mind, but you know.
Growth is
Uh,
linear, it could be messy. You need to not consider overdoing it as well.
well, now you've used that term quite a few times. Overuse. What do you mean by overuse? You mean by being judgmental? Do you mean that uh, we all had that internal clock of well, it wasn't done that way during my generation. I mean, what do you mean by overload?
So in overuse, when you do something consistently and you tell someone something consistently, there is a point that you're shut off to them, right? So no definitely is a word, but the more you say no to something, they're just subdued to saying, "I don't want to have a conversation with you because you're just going to say no." So why am I communicating or why am I bringing up anything? because now we call it overparenting sometimes. And in overparenting, even the World Health Organization says it actually causes separation and anxiety. So if we're looking to create a space where we want to not overuse something, then we have to learn to communicate. And that's why we don't overuse it.
So, from your clinic, was it uh, Good Morning America? You've seen every parenting fad that there is. Which quality damages the kids' mental health the most?
So I've seen a lot of parenting fads. I still see a lot of parenting fads. And I think one of the things we do is we overscript it. We have a lot of experts out there, right? I don't like to call myself a parenting expert. I am a physician. I give advice, I give guidance, I hear the thoughts of, the young youth, and then I bring it back to the adults so we could create, some sort of guidances. I think the problem is we're over scripting knowledge, and we're saying, here's the kid, here's the problem, this is what you do. That's not how it works. Every human being is different. Just because you see something that someone told you to do something or create something, you've got to go back and look at your own youth and child, because we've made this structure for safety. Like, okay, so my kid has this problem. This is what the expert says to do. And now we do it. And if he doesn't do it, then he's got another problem. Now he's got another problem. Like, whoa, back up. Let's sit down and stop overlooking at, like, their oversight is there's multiple people in their lives. There's coaches, there's tutors, there's teachers. All of these people want to filibuster what this kid needs to be like, but nobody's actually sat down and talked to the kid and had a conversation with them. And then what we do is we make sure we're looking at what the experts say, and then we're like, all right, this is how we make it. But the kid could be just messy and be like, hey, I just wanted to have a conversation, and you guys just already knew what you wanted to do with me. And I go back to it, growth isn't linear. Every child is different. You've got to sit down and understand that youth and understand that child before you put the structure on them.
Now, once again, going back to ancient history, uh, my parents' solution was to put me on Ritalin. Now, I'm not sure if that's the drug of choice now, but there are also a lot of people that overprescribe drugs because, like you said, hey, this is the problem. This is what we have to do. So, the parents don't have time or whatever. So we also, I think, uh, subjugate our kids to a lot of unnecessary drugs. Uh, and like I said, a lot of this is because, I'm sure, like both parents work, or it's a one parent household, or, various circumstances. But I do think that a lot of kids are subjected to uh, psychological drugs because the parents don't want to take the time to deal with them, which means, or in my case, since you didn't want to listen to me, this was your decision. How do I have input into what's going on with me?
Mhm. I believe that still happens. I can't subjectify and say all adults do that to kids. I'm not going to
No,
say
no,
that.
no, no. I was just
I
using
do,
that
I
as
do
an
believe it
example.
still happens. I believe it still happens. It's easy to shut down a child by giving them medication than actually working with them.
Now, now going back to your backfield, your background here. Let's when you're talking about, excuse me, um, so uh, when you're talking about grades, trophies, likes and stuff like that, how do we put our children off the performance hamster wheel without killing their motivation? I mean, for some kids, they live for the internet, and I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but maybe if you had a child that was looking up constructive things, as we're talking about here, maybe an extra assignment, or maybe having a group of your peers, and you're having constructive conversations. What do you think about things like that?
So I think if you're asking me what should we do to motivate them, or are we
No,
doing
I'm asking.
activities to motivate them?
I'm asking. Do you think that that's a good outlet for their motivation, or since I can't talk to mom or dad, or I can go on,
Right.
maybe the internet, and there was a bunch of us that had the same problem, or a
So
chat.
I think first of all, the internet is a whole different conversation. Kids who are going on the internet to look for advice from their peers um, can be good and bad, 100%, because you don't know if they're their peers also, or it's somebody who's going to harm them. When it comes to grades and like trophies and like extracurricular activities and creative outlets that they're doing, I think motivation is we have to shift that metric that the participation award isn't important. It is important because a participation award is showing that they want to do something, right? We don't have to. We have to show them. We have to celebrate every effort they have. We have to celebrate every resilience they do, every creativity they do, because these aren't outcomes. These are what kids are trying to tell you, that we're excited about this. And you know what you need to ask them? What do you want this to mean for you? What does this do? Like, I have to tell you an example. I don't come from a creative or a musical theater or any type of musical background. And my son loves music and he listens to music and he wants to make beats and he wants to do this. And I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, I don't know how to encourage this. So I asked him, I go, what do you love about this? And he goes, I love the fact that I can take different music from different places and put it together and create something new. So I have to encourage that. Because instead of him sitting on a computer and playing video games and doing that all day, I'll get him a program that he can switch off and make beats. I will get him a keyboard. I don't care how loud it is, because here's the thing, this isn't about us growing up anymore. It is about them growing into something. And if you want them to get off the internet, get off TikTok, get off social media, not play video games, don't go on Roblox, then find what their passion is. Because I've got to say this, you have the kids, you put them in this world. Now you got to be the adult. Because I'm tired of hearing that there is blame to everything else other than you being the adult. I blame the internet. I blame social media. I blame phones. I blame this. I blame that. Well, put an effort into your kids. I'm not saying you need to spend money. There are multiple ways. I found a program for him that was on a website that was for free for him to go understand beats. Do a little research. Do it with them. It should not take you long enough, more than 10 minutes, to find great things out there. Find a public library and go get a book. But we are constantly telling them how we want to kill their motivation because they're doing everything wrong. So change it up. Ask them what they enjoy. Ask them, what do they mean by doing this one thing that they did? And don't kill the participation award, because that one day will turn into something they love. Because once you kill that effect, then you've killed their motivation.
Hmm. I've never thought about it that way. Like, I guess, once again, I'll blame it on a generational problem, because Well, I mean, when we played sports back in the day, you had to play a certain number of games, a certain number of quarters in order for you to get that letter. You know,
Right.
if you participated in a certain track and field event, if you didn't come in the top four, then you didn't get a trophy.
Okay, so can I cut you
So,
off there? Because
oh
I'm going to
yeah,
tell you in what we did. So I played basketball my whole life. I coached basketball. I played basketball. I'm a Laker girl till you shoot me down because I'm an LA girl. But here was the one thing. It's the same thing. If you didn't make high school basketball, you didn't get to college, you're not going to get anywhere else, right? But guess what? I had a friend who played soccer her whole life. She is the largest commentator right now for FIFA. Sports doesn't have to take you into a trophy section. Sports can take you into multiple sections. You can work for multiple companies now. You can create broadcasting. Kids today can learn how to be journalistic YouTubers on just talking about sports. You don't have to be the athlete. You can create a whole nother atmosphere and go in multiple different places to get the accolade. Again, I don't call it a trophy, to get the accolade you want. Look at the bigger picture behind what the youth can do other than the narrow line linear growth that you think they can do. My son doesn't like playing sports, but can I tell you, he knows every soccer player on the Argentina team. I don't even know that. But he will wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch Messi play. I was like, you're 8 years old. How do you know this? But I knew he understood commentary. He got when the sportscaster spoke. I was like, wow. But we don't look for those things in our kids. You know what we look for? Is what you just said. The four main kids who got the trophy. We forgot about the other 10 kids who actually are going to do something else in that sport. Or we could encourage them and motivate them to do something else. Acting, theater, production. You don't have to be the actress in the lead. Without the director, without the people in the backstage, without the chorus, without the choreographers, without the people who do your hair and makeup, without the people, you don't have a play. You don't have a Broadway musical.
yeah, but nobody sees me there.
Yeah, they do. Guess what? The awards for the Tonys are for all of them, not just for the actors. Put your kids in front of the Tonys and let them watch what people get accolades for. You can become a fashion designer. You can become a stylist. There's so much more to that. And you can get scholarships at college for these things. If parents are so worried, how do we pay about? Look into scholarships. And you don't have to go right away to a 4-year college, right? There are colleges out there that now you can start slow and go into something. Or you don't go to college and you figure out a different path. There is no right or wrong answer. We as adults want the right answer for them because we want to push them towards something. Goes back to, have you sat down and listened to what they want? Maybe let's start there.
Very interesting. Very interesting. As I said, as I do understand what you're saying.
Change
And,
is
and
hard.
well, it is. I mean, but like I said, I do also think that we bear some of the responsibility
Of
by
course.
not. Uh, I think I don't know whether this would fit the vernacular of your position, but I think that we spent a lot of time also trying to make sure that our kids were safe,
Right.
and instead of like maybe you should teach them how to take chances, like you said, maybe you can't be uh the guy that hits the home run, but maybe you can be the coach. Maybe you can be a batting instructor, there's a lot of things that like you say that take place behind the lines that you can be proud of, and sometimes we have to stop thinking, as you said, and that
Yeah.
what was good back in my day, and what is good for the kid today,
Right. And
because
safety is different today, right? It's like, our parents would tell us, right? I don't know about you. Mine would say, come home before it's too dark, right? Like we would
oh,
play
when the street
outside.
lights came
Right.
on.
When the street lights came on, you need to be in, dinner's on the table, you better be ready to eat, right? That was our thing, and today's safety is different. Safety, my kids still play outside. So like that's there. I mean, but there are a lot of kids who still play outside, and there's a lot of kids who are not on digital, but there's so many. Safety is still safety. Even if you're outdoors, if you're indoors, or if you're on a digital platform, you still have to be safe. But to be safe, I think the conversation is different now. You know, I
Oh
think
yeah, yeah.
what we generationally have seen is it's more us telling them what to do. I think children and young adults and teenagers and middle schoolers have now more of a voice that they're like, we hear you, but I need you to hear us too. We need you to listen to us so we can create a space for that. And I think it's just different. I don't think it's bad or it's good. I think it's just different. That's all it is.
So you, like you said, you don't just work with kids; you also work with results, and a lot of CEOs call you for advice. Uh,
Some, not a lot, but some.
but what toxic business habits allows or shows up, on this type of platform?
So we have this generation called the Gen Zs and the millennials who are in the workforce, and there's already thought process how they are. There's already I hate to use these words, but like people have already defined what this generation means and put labels on them. First of all, I hate that. I hate putting labels on any human being, because I think a
We call it
label,
stereotypes.
it's a
I mean,
stereotype, right? Again, yes, it's a microaggression. It's a stereotype. It's a whatever you want to call it. Those are unexcusable. Those should not be done. No human being needs that on them. Um, so the one thing that I noticed that is very toxic in the business and the entrepreneurial and the corporate world is these performance reviews. And performance reviews are disguised as conversations. So when you
isn't
want to
isn't that
correct,
the same of whether or not you're going to get a letter?
or you're going to get a raise, or you're going to get whatever. You
Right,
already devise that you want to correct someone. So
right.
if you give a performance review, you're telling them, hey, I already know
I
you're doing
want,
this bad, so I'm going to correct you on it. Like,
I, I,
that's not a
I
performance
want
review.
that reward. I mean,
Right.
I'm like Pavlov's dog. I want that
So,
reward.
right, we're gonna overmanage now, right? I said we're gonna restrict our kids. Now we're gonna overmanage a whole culture of how do you do this and how do you do that? Well, change comes from generationally also mind growth and change. This generation of millennials and Gen Z come from a different mind growth and change. That doesn't mean it's unsuccessful. It's just different again. And if you don't utilize what they see, because this older generation CEO and HR director is like, nope, this is how it's always been, and this is success. Who says success is that way? Because I could tell you a million YouTubers right now who are under the age of 25 making a lot more money than some entrepreneurial CEOs. But that's success to them. And that success came from anything they wanted to do. So what we see is first we've got to get rid of blame and shame on labeling these generations. Number one. Number two, you have to give them an opportunity to give you their ideas and stop thinking you have to correct everything they do. That's it. Look at their perspective, hear them out, and then come up with an idea together, because I will guarantee you will see more success with that generation if you do it in that way. Because they want value. They feel they're worthy and they want accountability. And that's what I hear from them over and over again.
Okay. Yeah, accountability. I definitely that's a word that I think that we need to use more of, especially uh, with the way things are in the present world. But now you sit on the Toy Association board.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
How can toys move from uh, what did I call it, a time filler
Yeah.
to mental wellness? Because I mean, now I look at some of the toys that I get for my great grandkids when were young. I'm talking about, like, toddlers and that. And now, let's see, I want to say the 4-year old has a tablet, knows how knows how to go, whatever program he wants to go on. I have an 8-year old that wants a telephone,
Oh, jeez.
because all the other kids have one.
Mm.
So, you know, like I said, where do we, like, I don't know, a telephone now might be a toy. I mean, but how do we get that, just something to throw in front of your kid, while you don't have time?
So we call it mesh in the toy world and also in the medical world. It's called mental, emotional, social health toys, right? Um, there are no good toys for escape, if that's what you're asking me. There's no such thing as an escape toy. Like you can't. So there are entry points for this, right? And it's really for processing and connection is what mesh toys are for. Um, it's for building imagination, creating emotional regulation. It's for play. Now these can be really, like, your younger one could definitely start playing with these early. Um, I think um, we need to design better ones out there. I will agree with that. I think they're good for healing and they're not just for fun. I think there's a place where people who have anxiety or we need to work with kids and all that. If you're looking for escape toys, you have to build that with your youth, your child, because escape toys are what, like you said, adults use now, which is digital, right? That's the sad part. Um, I think there has to be things that you have created. So what I tell parents sometimes is, and I tell teachers is, create a box with them, right? And in that box, put their favorite things that they can have quality time spent. For example, I know this amazing 8-year-old who loves reading comics, like just could read any comic in the world. And I had their parents like go to all like old bookstores or like, things that just collect comics, because that for them, that for that 8-year-old, outside of the phone and video games, now that he has a phone, but it's not a phone where he's on social media or anything. It's more for digital play, right? I said, then what does he like to do on his digital that you could create in real time, right? Like that he could do. One of the girls liked to do this coloring map thing, right? It was like a number coloring thing. And I said, there are so many books out there that you can buy that she can color match and do it handwritten. So they got her colored pencils. They started noticing she loves to draw. And she uses this digital thing on her iPad to draw. So they got her a sketch pad. So you take what they love in digital and turn it into real time stuff. So one kid loves Star Wars. And so they really activated that Star Wars world for him. So you have to take a minute also. Again, goes back to you can't have escape toys. These are what I call escape toys. Like, there's no such thing as an escape toy, because right now their toy is escaping into the digital world. We have messed that up. And that's why I say you can't get rid of digital, but you've got to put a platform around it for them. You've got to put boundaries around it. You're going to have an 8-year-old ask for it. I am not that psychiatrist if you want me to tell you, don't get them. I will tell you they should not have any social media till they're 16. And that is the hardest job for any teenage parent. I am not disagreeing with that. But if they want a phone or an iPad, right? Find what those things are that are on there. Create boundaries around those digital things. Do not use it when you're telling them not to use it. Have proper schedules for them and stick to them. Because you can't say, I'm going to give it to you at 6 o'clock and then be like, no, you didn't do this. No, because then they're going to go fight you on it. You have to have a valid reason also if they don't get their digital, if that's a consequence they get. But you can't keep throwing it in their face and taking it away.
You mean I can't say because I said so anymore?
No, because it's going to happen back to you when you're, because I said so, Dad. I don't want to do this anymore. We're trying to give them guidance, right? We're also trying to make them great adults. That's our goal in life, right? Our goal in life is for you to go out there, be great human beings, be great adults, be empathetic, be compassionate, be leaders, be functioning human beings. So what we do in our home, they will do outside. Let's just remember that. And as soon as they're consciously seeing it at 5 years old, maybe 4, it sticks with them till they're 27.
I'm going to use a bad word here.
Okay.
Uh, Diversity awards look great on plaques.
Yeah,
Uh, how do we ensure inclusion? Oh, another bad word. I'm sorry. Uh,
that's okay.
feels real on the playground.
You got to stop it early. You got to stop exclusion early. So one of the things I've talked to adults about is, and teachers also is, if you hear a kid say to you or to another kid, you can't play with us because you're this, you got to jump in. You got to jump in right away because that's your teaching moment. That's your guiding moment. Can't do it 3 days later. Can't do it 16 days later. You got to do it right there and right then. And the reason you have to do it is it's because it's called early social integration. As soon as a 4-year-old says, oh, you can't play with us because you can't play with that, that is where we have to start it. And we also have to progressively start it because that's where bullying starts. So you've got to start it early and you've got to chop on it. One of the things that I hear with students say constantly is we don't tell our teachers anything anymore because nobody does anything. Kids can say what they want. Kids can act the way they want. There is no social discipline. There is no discipline in schools. Oh, I hear school districts say, oh, we have this, we have this, we have this. You know what the kids say? Who cares? Nobody does anything. Nobody gets in trouble for saying anything. So who are we blaming? Are we blaming the children or should the adults become adults again? So I don't know where diversity and inclusion occurs if we don't have adults actually stepping in to fix the situation.
Well, kind of continuing on that, can you describe a moment when a child's comment in Kids for Democracy changed the adults in the room?
Wow, there were so many great moments. Kids for Democracy was so much fun. I was blown away by these kids and what they said. Sheetal and I, my co-founder, we would hear so many comments, and I think maybe I
Now,
guess
how old are these kids, by the
so.
way?
There were kids from 8 years old to 17 years old
Okay.
across country, and they were all difference of opinions. These were all difference of opinions, and we kept quiet, and we did not want to get involved. We just wanted to ask questions and let them answer them. And I think one of the kids, I remember this, asked us a question, and it kind of took me a blur. They said, why do you ask our opinions after you've already decided what the solution is? I was like, okay. I I had to step back for a second, and I was like, I mean, you could see it in my face. I was like, ooh, wow. And I think that one comment to me reframed a lot of things that I've already been hearing within the kids, um, that consultation without influence is a performance.
Could you repeat that?
Consultation, so if you're consulting with someone without influence, is a performance. It's not participation. So his question was, you want me to participate, but you already have the answer for me. Well, he's right. If I'm consulting with someone, but I don't want their influence because I'm technically, in his mind, his words are just words. Now I'm performing something with him. That's not participation. And that's what we do. We do that. We do that with adults. We do that with humans that are young, old. That's what it is. I could sit in a room of a meeting of multiple teachers and they could be consulting me. But if I don't want their input on how to make something work, or if I don't want the kids' input in a peer-to-peer conversation, then it's a performance. It's not participation. And that's how students feel right nowadays in school. I think there was a book that I read. His name is Roger Hart's Ladder of Participation. That was the book. It shows that true youth engagement is shared power.
Nobody wants to share power. Power is mine to do as I am the power, right?
If you're the power, then you're a dictator. If you share power, then you're a democracy.
But is there such a thing as a democracy in the house?
I believe there is. I believe there is. I believe that in a home, you have leadership, but you have shared power. That's where you take the input by listening to each member of your family to create a space that everyone gets along and gets to do what their needs are for their emotions and their lifestyle. Because one kid loves to dance and the other doesn't. Okay, let's do a simpler thing. Let's go back. Movie night at home. We all get to vote to decide which movie we want. And if we don't agree upon it, then we don't watch a movie. Isn't that democracy? Or if four want to watch it and one doesn't, then the four watch it and the one can watch it, or they can walk out of the room and do something else. That's a democracy.
Everybody gets a turn, and regard. It doesn't matter. It's Doris's turn.
That's a democracy too. When you all get a turn, it's still a democracy. But that's a rule or a legislation, I'm going to put it back in, that you put together to say once a week, everyone gets to choose their movie. Now, the agreement is if you don't want to watch it, you can leave the room and do something else.
Sure.
And these are the choices you have. Because you're still adults and parents in this room. I'm not going to have you sit on social media for 5 hours. Like, that's not happening in my household, but you can go read a book. You can go listen to music. You can play this video game for 35 minutes. That's it. But if you don't want to watch it, that's still a democracy. So why are we saying there's not a democracy in the home? Because you want to make sure you're letting everyone participate. And you're not only just creating a performance for them.
So, using another phrase that's kind of from my generation, when does raising a generation? What does that mean to you when the algorithm shapes so much of your childhood?
So first of all, I hate the word raising. Can I just tell you that? I hate it. I am not raising anyone. I don't raise cattle. I don't raise flock. I don't raise. That's what you raise. Raising means you're creating an outcome for something. When you raise something, you create an outcome for them. right? I'm not creating an outcome for adult children. I want them to have mind of their own to go do what they can do. I don't want to raise a generation to decide what I want them to do. I want them to make a decision what they need to do. But when you're guiding a generation, that is not above them, because now you're doing it together. Now the algorithms are loud. They're not wise. They're just loud. They're just out there. They're loud and they don't want to hear us. But what we need to do is decode it for the kids. And I'll tell you, I'm not the right person to decode it for any kid because I don't even understand it, right? But there are experts out there who have given great knowledge behind the fact that how much and what should your youth be on at what point in their lives, right? For these algorithms. In 2023, the UNICEF came out with a digital literacy alongside emotional literacy. And they said we need to guide globally awareness for our youth and our children, because they're going to lose their critical thinking as humans if we don't get involved in this. So that is really important, because the algorithms don't give them critical thinking. They show them what they have to think. And that's what we have to be careful of.
Wow, see, I find even adults are afraid of critical
Oh yeah,
thinking. But
I
that's a
agree with that.
different. But that's a different show and a different
Yeah, no, I
program.
agree with you on that too. Yes,
So,
I do agree with that.
uh, so you've called youth leadership practice for power.
Yep.
What daily household chores secretly kind of transfer or trains future leaders? Would you say?
So this took me a while to figure out this thought process, because I was like, what do I do at home, or what do like my nieces and nephews do? And my sister-in-law and I were talking about this, and so this really works, I think, more middle schoolers, but you could work with like an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old. Grocery planning. Do you know how difficult it is to plan a grocery list?
Oh, please, yes.
Okay, so
And what's even more is trying to follow it because
right,
there's
right.
oh
Like you go
that
to
looks good
Costco
and
and you
this
see
looks
something on sale. Yeah, no, I get it. So what does grocery planning teach you? It teaches you budgeting. It teaches you negotiation, especially let's say you go to a farmer's market, right? It teaches you decision making, and it teaches you what do you want to anticipate others' needs. So like for an adult, it's like, okay, I have to make a family meal, right? This kid likes this husband likes this, the mother-in-law likes this. So you got to figure that out, where you're not going to spend so much money on like different meals, right? You got to figure that out too. So you got to do planning. It was so funny. I read an article because I was researching this, and my sister-in-law was like, try to use this with the kids and see how it works. And I gave it to a teacher too. A teacher did a grocery planning thing with her like, I think it was a 4th grade class or a 5th grade class. And she like put a market out there. And she said, you would be amazed how these kids would talk like CEOs. They knew who learned what and who needed to lead in this organization, from listening to how these kids planned, negotiated, budgeted, and had it. And you could see where the leaders were, and you could see who was kind of the planner, who was kind of the family situation, who it was so amazing. And it was by grocery planning. And I know a lot of teachers use different things. Like you could use, hey, you get this for a week and this is your money. This is a budgeting way. And it teaches financial mastery. It teaches negotiation. And I was like, that's such a great thought process. Plan a grocery list and send them out. I would say don't send them to Costco. That would be my only one to suggest.
yeah. But I do understand. I used to be a chef, and like
There
uh,
you go. You know this.
trying to keep that. You have to keep that cost down. You have to, and like you say, meal planning. But yes, that yeah, that would definitely be a good one. So now, when I was also wanted to know where you stand on social media. It never sleeps. How could families build genuine off switches uh, that you know kids will willingly accept or adapt? It's always well. As soon as I get to the next level, or I mean, me and my friend, just a minute, mom, uh, but like you said, there has to be a time when you put limits. Uh, 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 there's a reason why, they have those MA and GA and P.
So I used to say tech-free dinners, right? And it's funny because it was my 9-year-old who was like, God, this is such a rule now. And I was like, no, I don't want this to be a rule. This isn't a rule. I just don't want our digitals on our table while we're eating dinner. I don't want us to be. And then, my husband made a really good point. He goes, yeah, it is a rule. We have this whole like rules for digital use. It's not in our rooms. It's not in this. And I was like, I don't want digital to be a disconnection. I don't want it to be punitive to them. I want the youth to realize that with you not being on digital, there's so much other fun. So there's storytelling, there's laughter, there's music, there's things like do something, play a game while you're at dinner. Ask questions. Doesn't have to be like, what did you do today? No, like go, okay, topic of discussion today. I created a jar with a bunch of questions. So each kid gets to pick a question and we get to answer it. Like it could be a silly question, it could be a fun question. Um, there was an MIT research that was done that said shared presence is not a restriction. It builds digital balance. So make offline a gift, not a punishment. That's what you have to do. But every household is different, right? I can't tell you what you need to do. You've got to look at your family structure to create that digital free time. But you got to make it fun.
So many districts push for social emotional learning, uh, which the elements are what elements, excuse me, are they still missing, and uh, why is this mission critical?
Well, I can't speak about all school districts because I don't work with them. But those that I have, social emotional learning is it's often missed because student-led voices is not about regulating behavior. It is about empowering their expression, right? And I think that's what's missed about it. Social emotional learning is letting the youth or the child express their emotions, but we actually tend to suppress it by creating a space for them to not adjust, but to be influenced. So I can't speak on that so much, but I do know there's still that much done. It's really agency driven.
Ah, there's so many things I want to get into that. Well, no, I'm gonna, I'll try to make sure that we stay within time, but
No, no, it's fine.
it,
No, there's a lot to that. I do agree with you. It's a whole show to be talked about because I think we've forgotten that while listening is not soft, it is a strategy when it comes to younger kids. And if we don't hear them, we're shutting them down.
now I know this may sound strange, but I know that as an 8-year old, you know, younger, there were certain things that I did not do in public to embarrass my family or whatever.
Okay.
Now you can go, to the store you mentioned, Costco. There's 2 or 3 kids crying. I want this. There might be a kid over in another aisle, throwing things because his dad didn't get him whatever, the toy that he wanted. Then you get a little older and you see the kids hanging on the corner, not necessarily get, engaging in the best of activities. Have we become afraid of our children? Have we become afraid to discipline our children? And
Yes.
and I know that's way,
No,
but
but I think discipline is a word that we have to use in a conscious way, right? Okay, there's discipline that is unacceptable, right? Like
right, right. I'm not talking about abuse.
and then there's discipline which is constructive, and then there's discipline that is nurturing, and then there's discipline that is, you've got to give them guidance on how to be. Now, we also have to remember one thing is when you see children in public acting out, there's not always a reason for it. There is a lot that adults themselves and parents themselves don't see that is happening with that child. And I think we extremely go to judgment very quickly without understanding reason of what's happening. Now, there are multiple diagnoses out there. I can go on the spectrum, autism, which parents don't even know about a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, or 6-year-old, and they have these actions that are happening in public. And we as a human being or as a separate adult watching this is already gone to judgment. Rather than actually saying, hey, ma'am, can I help you out? Is there something I can do to help? Or, hey, sir, can I help you out? We will either look at them meanly, we will judge them, we will go tell somebody who is the owner or manager of the store, and then we will shed them away. Now, if there's a kid on the ground or in the block on the corner doing something, we will judge that child, we will judge that parent, and then we will judge the situation. But we won't step up as human beings and be like, hey, we got to nip this in the butt because we have no idea what this kid has gone through. And we need to go help and stop this situation before multiple other children come, or we can help this one kid. I don't think discipline is bad. I think we have to figure out the situation before we make a decision what that discipline is. And I don't think any human being who is not that child's guardian, adult, or in that situation has a right to make a decision on what that discipline is. Unless you're walking in my shoes, don't tell me how to guide my child because you do not know what maybe is happening here.
very good advice. Very, very good advice. Mental health also, that stigma, it still kind of scares parents. How do you treat uh, therapy, like tutoring, no shame, just support? How do you make that kind of, I guess, kind of separation? Like you said, uh, these people are being judged, by on site. You might not know that the child, like you said, autism,
Right.
and and different things that kids go through. I mean, I might not know the proper name for them, but kids have mental issues too. Uh, you know,
Right. I tell them therapy is like a brain gym. Your brain is a gym, and that's what therapy is. It's like working it out so you can resolve the issue. Now, if we talk about shame, right? Like if you're saying the kid is going through a disability or an educational disability, please don't shame your child because you don't even know if they're going through something. If they're not doing well in something, go get the right help before you make a decision. I had a parent who told me, oh, he just doesn't study. He's like, hyperactive and this and that. And I said, have you gone and seen someone to see if we could actually, I'm not saying you need a diagnosis, but maybe you don't know what he's going through. Let's go find out from somebody who knows what he's going through. And they did. And you've got to take what's going on with them and actually strengthen that situation. Dr. Amen says this all the time, and Dr. Siegel says this all the time, who are these experts who, Integration is the key to well-being. You've got to integrate them in what their needs are and what their wants are and how are we resolving this mental health issue, whether it's disability or whether it's psychologically or whether it's therapeutically, right? Those are our three that we want to figure out. And therapy is a tool for that integration. Therapy is not a failure. It's not an admission for failure. It's to
Ah,
help your
now,
brain work through that.
once again, I'm going to give you an example. Coming home from a war situation,
Right.
at that particular time, there was a lot of dissension in the way that the public should feel about us returning veterans. The way that we were greeted when I came home saying that or admitting that you had a mental problem was, the last thing in the world that you wanted to do because now you were that crazy nut guy in the neighborhood. You have to warn your kids, and PTSD as it's called today was called combat fatigue. You were weird. And going to therapy was a stigma.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward 40 years later, still taking anger management, but now all of a sudden, therapy has taken on a different meaning. Therapy is now actual help in trying to find out what's wrong rather than putting a label on it. Do you find the same thing happening with our children and parents that don't want their kids labeled or thought of as quote unquote mental cases?
First of all, I don't think anyone calls it mental cases anymore. I really do believe
See,
that. I
that's what
think
I
that,
see. I,
yeah.
no,
See, adults, no, no, not your fault. First of all, thank you for your service. And I feel like what you all went through, I can't even imagine what the veterans today have no services to them for these explicit mental health and PTSD and all the things you guys went through. I feel for that. I truly do. I think this generation of older kids, I'm going to talk about like the teens and older, they don't find it a stigma. They're like, we're going to go out there and say it. I got anxiety. I got depression. I got bulimia. I got this. I got that. Because they want to help other people. I think the generation, maybe I'm a Gen Y, no, Gen X. I'm trying to figure out the generations. My generation and above still feels like it's a stigma, unless you're in the mental health field or a physician or you're broad minded. I think the generation after us is like, no, we don't. And I have to say, I think a lot of generation of my generation is trying to change that pattern and giving their kids help and if they need it. And I don't think it's a stigma. I don't think a diagnosis or putting a label is because they don't look at it as labels. They don't. I think parents want to avoid the labels because they don't want their kids to think, oh, something's wrong with me. They want to use it as a positive to give them advancement. That, you know what, I'm dyslexic, but that's a superpower. I'm this, that's a superpower. Like they are giving them the label of positivity towards whatever it is. I think the generations behind us didn't understand that. I don't want to blame them. I don't think they just understood that. I think that's just how it was. I think the kids today that are 27 and under, they're like, we don't care. We're going to utilize this physiological, psychological, emotional situation, and we're going to use it to our advantage. That's how they feel.
So, if you could rewrite uh, just one line in every school policy manual tomorrow, what would it be? What would it say?
If I could rewrite one, every child has to get a psychological analysis every year when they come and start school and they end school. They have to do a psychological test.
Hmm, okay, sounds
They have to
good.
have a school counselor who is a PhD or has a behavioral certification, and every kid has to go through that. So we can see what they need help in, and we can have those advances as they go through the school year and they go through every kid has to have that cross country.
Hmm. Okay. Um, when I first saw you use the word seek, I was thinking of the soldiers that I met from India that were called Sikhs,
Yeah.
and I knew that they had a very profound way of life and the
Mhm.
way that they saw things. So when you use the word seek, I was kind of wondering, like, is this the same philosophy? But
Mhm.
I'm going to just ask you the question: uh, What have seek values? What are they, first of all, and what have they taught you about the global child advocacy that Western models overlook?
So I think one of the biggest Sikh values that I have been has been instilled in me is seva. Now, seva means selfless service, and it centers around humility and also interconnectedness. And so
So
Sikh
you
values,
are using basically their philosophy, the Sikhs.
basically, yeah, because that's
Okay.
what I was raised on. So Sikhs values teach that leadership is also service, right? And every child holds a divine light in my eyes. In my eyes, that's what they do. Western frameworks often prize independence. Sikhism reminds us to be a collective care. And when kids are taught that they're part of a greater good, they step into a purpose earlier. So for me, Sikhism, which was Guru Nanak Dev Ji, who was our first guru's idealness, was his whole leadership was on seva, is to give back and to do it selflessly. So when I work, I selflessly show the youth that I am creating with them to be part of the greater good.
Okay. All right. All right. So it is very similar to the philosophy that but of course, like I said, different circumstances. But I do know that they were very devout.
Yes, we
And
are. My father was a big Sikh leader here in Los Angeles, California. He built one of the first temples here in LA in the 1950s. So I come from a very well known leadership of the Sikh value in our family.
oh, okay, very very interesting. Your Forbes next 1,000 uh, nod highlighted entrepreneurship. How can kids cultivate entrepreneurial grit without uh, crushing the joy?
I don't think you need to crush their joy. What do they enjoy doing? Tell them to create a lemonade stand, create make a comic, sell slime, whatever they feel happy in doing, they can create a business out of it. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as they feel joyful in it and they feel like they're having fun in it, that is what the purpose is.
So
You
do
don't have
we?
to grind at becoming an entrepreneurial. Hustling is great, but they need purpose, right? And for them, emphasizing whatever they're doing creatively could become an entrepreneurial journey for them. The adult, has to uplift that, and make sure if they understand that if they fail, that's okay. We just get right back up and do it again and create resilience for them.
Okay, all right. Picture 2035. What does an ideal school day look like if you use the I Listen to the Kids platform
In school.
in school?
Hmm. Wow, that's a good question. Um, Morning circle times, multi-age
Or
groups.
can we really, with
No, we
uh,
can do it. We can do it. It's hard because we got to do massive education reform to that. But I think what I'd love to see is morning circle times with like multi-age groups. Like, you have fourth graders with third graders, have these peer-to-peer conversations. You do midday mindfulness, which is like, literally having little kids put their head down, take 5 to 7 minutes, really creating mindful spaces for older kids. If they are just over anxious in the classroom, they have the ability to walk out and go into a mindful room. Um, Afternoon co-ed led workshops with high school kids, like having girls and boys come together and create workshops. Um, I feel like every classroom has to have a listening board, which where, students give their feedback and their changes, but you have to do that change tomorrow. Like, you have to walk through that. So if the child puts something in the thing, the teacher has to look at it and has to talk about it the next day. You can't just say, oh, here's the thing, and I put a slip in. And no, you've got to create the change within the immediate time. I think education has to be a conversation. I don't think it needs to be a command. I think we've made it such a command, and I think it needs to be an ongoing conversation.
Okay.
How does I see 2035 look like if listening to the kids was a kids-based learning?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we also have, I mean, since we don't know what's going to go on with the Department of Education, it might be kind of, hard to figure out what's going to be happening in
Right.
2026, let alone 2035. But
Fair enough.
just throw that out there. Uh, so, if politicians, uh, they cite parental rights, uh, what should they be prioritizing but are?
I think parental rights should be protected. I don't think they should be projected. We have to prioritize the fact that a parental right is first the child's right. It's their truth. Um, the truth for the child to feel belonging and to feel, that they have a commitment from an adult. You know, the child has a right to express their views in all matters affecting them. I think parental rights are supposed to be safe and they're not supposed to be censored. But I think the child also needs to be protected. And that right to protection was given by Article 12 in the UN Convention. But I don't think children feel like they have rights. I think they feel like the adult has the rights. But even when the adult has the rights, they're also refused and taken away. I think it's a very fine line, you know.
I think kids are very well aware of their rights. As a matter of fact, well, I mean, uh, of course, uh, different neighborhood, but I know that there were kids that the first thing they would say if like I'll call Child Protective Services if you do such and such. So I think kids are very well uh, aware of their rights. The thing that I think of is that in many cases, par- parents are afraid to exercise their parental rights.
I
Your
don't think
thought?
parents are afraid. I don't think they're afraid. I think parents are cautious because we're in a very different time than it was before. And I think they're suppressed in the fact that what is the government going to say to them, and then where is they between this child so that they're here in the middle, and they're between the child and right now what the government is allowing them. Like, I don't know what the parental rights are for parents right now, because we are so torn in this country I'm talking about, and now across the globe it's different in every country.
Yes.
um I feel right now kids don't have rights, and neither do parents. I don't think so.
Oh wow. Wow. We might have to. We're definitely going to have another discussion here. Uh, One parenting book that you toss, one that you keep, and the one that you'd write next.
The one I'd keep is The Whole Brain Child. I love that book by Dr. Siegel and Bryanson.
What was the name of it again?
The Whole Brain Child.
Okay.
It's older, but it's still good. I really like it. Baby wise, I would toss because I think sleep isn't a control matter. It's about sleep and kids sleep. I think we are battling children with their sleep, but I think we need to be adults and figure out what our sleep patterns are for our kids. And we need to find out if there's something wrong before we start coming to conclusions about sleep.
What
Um,
was that? What was that one again?
Baby wise.
Baby Wise.
Yeah, you don't have to control. Sleep isn't a control battle. I think people make that too much of a battle. But again, I'm not a pediatrician, and so I don't. But that was just my opinion. I did different ways to help my kids sleep, and they have great sleep patterns. The one I write next: listen and then lead. How to guide without guilt.
Are you working on that one?
I'm working on
it,
it.
it sounded like something that you'd given a lot of thought to. That's why I was asking you. So I'm thinking here if every adult would hear a single unfiltered sentence from tomorrow's youth, what do you think uh, that might drop message might be?
Stop talking about our future. Build it with us. That's what the kids say today.
Hmm. I think that's a mission that's harder for us than it
Yeah,
is for them.
100%. 100%. It's harder for us, but it's not
So,
our future. It's theirs.
but once again, as I said, there's that thing called control, and that which you
You gotta
feel
let
that you
go of it.
can't. That but if you can't control it, then you feel, I mean,
No one's asking to control it. They're asking for us to be communicative with them and to be collaborative with them. They're not saying we don't need you to control it, and we don't need to control it. We want to collaborate together to build a future. We don't need you to tell us what to do anymore. Because you've given us this world and you said, here you go. But what if we don't want it?
what if we are we the reason why they don't want it? Our actions
Yeah,
that's what really puzzles. I mean, that's it.
yeah,
It does seem to me that when I look at present day surroundings, and I'm looking at all of our leaders are my age or older, and I'm wondering, like how in the world do we think that we can control a generation that has seen so much? I mean, now, I can do everything on here. This little instrument right here, I can do everything on here. I can find out any facts that I want. I can find out about things that I don't want.
right,
But as compared to when back in the '60s, if you had a computer, it filled up a room. You
right.
know, you had to do a thing, where you had to do punch cards in order to write a program. You know, nowadays I ask Google or my TV, Alexa, change channels. I don't even have to do that anymore. So I'm glad that we were able to spend this time together. I would like to invite you back.
Of
We
course.
will sure that I set the proper amount of time and the right
No,
time.
of course, of course.
I think this subject is so important because I do believe that we don't listen to our children, but yet our children are the future.
Yeah.
So, could we get your final thoughts and where we can find you on social media,
Sure. Yeah,
any
absolutely.
books you have out there, articles? Yeah.
So if you're wondering like what the next generation needs, ask them. That's what I would say. Then listen, and not for that you want to just hear them, but for what they're really saying. I think the greatest act of leadership is learning how to follow the voices of those we're reshaping for the world they want for. Really, that's the important part. Again, the greatest act of leadership is learning how to follow the voices of those we're shaping the world that it is for. Because, we need to just keep quiet, be unjudgmental, and listen.
I believe the Indians told us that many, many years ago.
I believe they did.
It didn't work for them too well, but it was the advice that was given. Hopefully, our next generation will be
I think they will. I have a very, 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 very solid belief in them.
well. My intentions are to live to be 101. I want to see what happens in these
Oh, I
next.
love that. That's a great intention.
Well, I want to see. I mean, I've watched all the changes that's been gone through in these last 78 years. I want to see, uh, like I said, I mean, it's amazing. I remember, when you could hear cars going down the street.
Right.
Now it sounds like, a little hum going past it. Oh, that's a Tesla, you know. But, the muscle cars, no such thing. A lot of high schools that don't exist. There's a few colleges that don't exist. I mean, we've come through so many changes that I really want to see, what it's like to live a century.
That's
So,
fantastic. Yeah, no, you guys can follow me at everything Dr. Z underscore MD. I'm on all of the social platforms. And it's DRZEE underscore MD. And you can find me on all of them.
all right. Well, hey, thank you so much. I'm glad that we were able to spend this time together, and I will definitely get back with you because, like I said, I think this is a subject that we need to talk about much more.
I agree.
And I, I'd also like to talk to you about your feelings on the Department of Education and what it means to kids. But like I said, that's a different show, and I will definitely get back to you because I think your work is very important as well as your platform. So thank you very much, and I look forward to having you back again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, you have a great night.
You too.
So that was Dr. Z, and great platform. Listening to our kids, isn't that something different? Who would have thought? My goodness, just as something as simple as listening. Well, thank you so much. We got on a little early tonight. I will be putting us up our program up on Z as soon as we get finished. You have a great night and look forward to talking to you next Monday. Have a great evening, everyone.